Hello everybody, welcome back to Fanblade. I've had a look at the schedule and I've got no idea. I think it's pickup winding day. This is the one you've been waiting for. This is the one where I finally explain what the hell I was thinking when I made this. Well, what I was thinking when I made this one, and that one, and that one, and that one, was basically stacked humbuckers. Yeah. Doesn't work all that well on a bass, it turns out. What you have is, as these are Alnicos by the way, what you have is the string coming across the top of the pole piece, and the top coil is seeing a certain amount of disruption in the magnetic field, and the bottom coil is seeing none of it. So, yeah, it doesn't really work all that well. I tried doing it with a shallower, you can see the difference there, and worked better. Also, neodymium magnets on this one worked a lot better. This is probably the best sounding pickup I've made. This is kind of the basis of what I'm doing today, except I'm not going to be stacking the humbuckers. Stacking the coils. I'm going to be making more of a traditional humbucker and obviously a 5-string version. Essentially, I'm going for a Music Man-ish kind of a design, and I have worked out roughly what I'm doing, and yeah, fitting everything into this thing is going to be interesting. I need to make the surround exactly the same size as the Bartolini Music Man pickup, because inevitably I'm going to find myself dissatisfied with these things that I've built and want to just drop some Bartolinis into them. I just know that's in my future. I know that that's going to happen. When I figure out, better ways of doing these pickups, I'll go back to listen to these ones and think, no good. But I have to actually build them first to prove myself that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sure many of you could have told me that already. I'm going to use the neodymiums. These are the only ones I could get the right quantities of and sort of roughly the right sizes. They are countersunk on one side. These are so you can screw them to things for different applications. With this one here, you can see the countersinks are alternating. That's purely by accident. All of these pickups are the same way up as far as their polarity is concerned. It's just that the countersunk is formed on opposite sides. Now, when I went back to the shop, I found that they were all mixed, so I went through their pile of pickups, and I do have 20 magnets that are all the same way up. So I'll be able to feed the same amount of magnetism into each pole piece. Speaking of pole pieces, this is a length of, I thought it was 6mm steel rod. Turns out it's 6.3, which is somebody's approximation of a 1/4 inch. It's not really what I wanted, but it is what I have. I'm going to have to cut this into sections by hand because the lathe is broken. That'll be fun. And then, of course, I'll be... Oh! You got to be careful about that happening as well. These will break. The flatwork is going to be polycarbonate plastic. I've got a couple of big sheets of it there. There's a local company that had a couple of decent-sized offcuts, which they sold me for not very much. And I've been working with it a bit, and it's cool. It works fine. It's great. 1mm thick, and does a fine job. The other thing I want to try is some different magnet types. Neodymiums, obviously, but I have got here from a craft shop some circular ceramics. So I'm going to do a little test when I've made the first coil. Pop some neos on there, test out how it sounds. Pop them off, pop the ceramics straight on there. See how it sounds again. I've got a theory that with the construction of this pickup and the way the magnet is based underneath a pole piece sticking up and the magnetism sort of mushrooms out the top, string goes through that, the tone depends on the shape of the coil, not the source of the magnetism. I believe the neos will be ever so slightly louder. I want to test this theory. And I should say as well, Alnicos are a slightly different prospect because you don't have a magnet at the bottom shooting magnetism out the top of a pole piece. The entire thing is one magnet. So the actual magnetic structure is different for an Alnico than it is for when you have a magnet on the bottom and pole pieces going through. There's so much to this, and I haven't even started talking about things like capacitance and inductance and all the things that I actually can't measure because I don't have the right equipment for it. I'm just making it up as I go. Welcome to Fanblade. Let's cut steel. Here is how they all go together. That's a piece of flatwork. Here is another piece of flatwork that should match it. There's so many bits of plastic on all of these. Right. Now, simply take 5 pole pieces at random because they're all the same in theory. Ideally they are 10mm each. They're sort of closer to about 9.5. And there's a little bit of variance there, but very, very close. I'd love to find a way to get these a bit more accurate, but it's not going to happen when I'm doing it by hand. Okay, so they are in 10mm. The flatwork is 1mm, so therefore I've got some spaces that are just the right size to take up the centre and keep everything even on both ends. And with a little bit of work you can get everything to sort of line up. It's a little bit fiddly, this. There's got to be an easier way to do this. Pre-bought pole pieces and 3D printed flatwork. That's how you do it. And once I find the perfect pickup design, that's exactly what I'm going to get done. Okay, so that's now on. Everything should be pretty even, looking pretty good. Right, now just a few drops of super glue. Got to be careful to make sure the spaces are far away enough that they're not going to get any glue on them, because the last thing we want is the spaces getting stuck in there. That would be bad. A little drop of glue, and then you just wait a few minutes for that to set. And then you flip it up over, and then you do the glue the other side in. Good opportunity to do the rest of them. just while that flatwork is over there drying, we'll wait until it's properly set before continuing with it, I'm going to run you through what the rest of the process is. We need a method for attaching the wire to the pickup. Now, ordinarily, what you would do would be to drill a small hole, put an eyelet in, and then wrap the pickup wire around that a few times and so you can solder onto it. Now, you can't really solder onto polycarbonate because it has a tendency to melt. So the solution that I've come up with is these PCB breadboards that I've got, and they come along with each end has these lands on them. So I'll slice them off, chop them up, and you can see here, that's exactly what I've done, just glue them on, and that's enough thermal insulation that I can solder to them without melting the polycarbonate. That's, it seems to work quite nicely. The other thing that I need to do to that flatwork before I can actually wind it, though, is drill some little holes in between the pole pieces, because if I were to pop this one in epoxy without the pole pieces, as soon as I stick it into the vacuum chamber, all of the air that's in between that wants to rush out, and it pushes the coil around and kind of, potentially wrecks it. So just to relieve the pressure, you put a little hole just in there. Much safer to do that before you've wound the pickup, I have found. So, that's the process pretty much. I'm going to take the pickup wire, sellotape it to one side. I'm going to mark each pickup with what side is the start and what direction it's wound. Hopefully I don't get confused and mess the whole thing up, because it's a long process to get to a result that doesn't work. Ask me how I know. We're starting to get somewhere. I've had an output jack on this, I've had some neodymium magnets on here, and they sounded good. This measures 4.8K. I wanted to do a test where I swapped out the neodymiums for some ceramic magnets, but then I discovered something. When the ceramic magnets are attracting each other like that, like you would want them all up the same way, but when you do that, they repel each other sideways. So there's actually no way to get these, like, without actually gluing them on and permanently making this into a ceramic magnet. I can't get any of the pole pieces to center properly. They just don't want to. They just don't want to stay put. So, unfortunately, I can't do the test that I wanted to do to prove the thing that I think might be right, but still don't know about. I will have to do other tests on that. Maybe other people have thoughts on that they want to share. But as it is, I'm just making the call that neodymiums rule the day. Yeah, I'm going to glue them on. Okay, they're all glued together. While they dry, I've got to make some surrounds, and this is the plan for the surround. Essentially, 3mm wood frame mounted on a piece of walnut burl. I'm going to cut another piece off that block. Epoxy all that together, stick two coils in it, and then pour epoxy on top of that, and we'll stick it in the vacuum chamber. And then you'll get to see some interesting things happen, because that thing's cool. I've got a piece of walnut slightly larger than this one. I've also got this one if I need a little bit extra. Should have enough. Hopefully I don't have to resort to using something else. All going well, we should not have any problems, which I suppose is the definition of things going well. These may look a little bit rubbish, but by the time these are all cleaned up, they are going to look absolutely exquisite. But we can't clean them up without making more of a mess of them. So, here are some coils. This is a matched set of coils, with the magnets wanting to attract each other, but if I line them up properly, they should just sit there. That's an interesting problem. Okay, or I might actually what I might do is just cut a very small shim and just wedge it in so that it sort of locks them down in place. Stop them wanting to fold up on each other. Okay, there's one, here's the other. Let's see if we have the same problem. Alright, they're perfectly happy. I know. A couple of little toothpick ends. Maybe even just one. Wedged in at the top. Just to separate them. Yep. They are now staying put. Let's vacuum pot them. Now, I have been wanting to go on about my vacuum chamber for some weeks now. It works surprisingly well. This is a food storage container that I got, I think it was $14.99. It's, it's proper glass, and I think the lid is plastic, but for reheating your lunch, they stuck an air vent in there so it doesn't explode in the microwave. That's super useful. This is an air pump. I think it was about $30. Little micro air pump. It runs on a 12-volt thing, which I'm getting out of the pickup winder. This is a piece of air hose that I just cut off the compressor. And this little brass nib here, well, I mean, I have a lathe, although it's not working all that well at the moment, but you can literally make this piece with a hand drill and a file. None of this is difficult. None of this has to be expensive, and you're about to see how well it can work. For resin, I'm just using some liquid gloss that I got at the craft shop. I don't know if that's a brand name or Glass Coat is the brand name, or if it really matters. I don't know. It seems to do the job. Yes, and I will need to get some scales and something to measure them into, because it's a 1-to-1, so that's nice and easy to mix. And yeah, I suppose we just do it. Okay. Power on. And vacuum. Alright. Yeah, I'm going to let the air back in, then we'll give it a couple of minutes, and then we'll do that again. I'm really quite glad to see those toothpicks stayed in place. I thought there's a chance that when everything starts bubbling they could move. And bearing in mind those magnets are still pulling against each other, so we're not out of the woods yet. But I'm going to give that another pull with the vacuum. Yep, I think that might be all we're going to get, and that's fine. That will have sucked a whole lot of resin a long way into those coils, and they will be fine. They will be fine for a very long time. Let the air out. Super careful. There we go. Right, job done. I am now going to simply let that sit there overnight. And here we are the next morning. Epoxy's not quite set hard, is still like I could probably sign my name in that. I'm not going to, just in case I wind up ripping chunks of it out. Interestingly, some of the epoxy got sucked through the veneer. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. I'm going to sand this off and finish it anyway. The epoxy and the super glue play nicely together, so when I finally finish this with CA glue, that'll that'll all just disappear. That one sat in the glass dish. This one sat on the paper. It got stuck to it. But that'll all sand off. These should all just clean up really nice, and they should look very, very good. They should sound amazing. I say should. I can't really do anything else with these in this video. I can't do a sound check with them because the bases aren't built yet. I have to go and do that. So, yeah. Come back, watch the rest of the series, and you'll eventually get to see how these sound, because, yeah, I am anticipating good things. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing, and I'll see you in a day or so.